Welcome to Beans and Breakdowns, a podcast dedicated to bridging the gap between specialty coffee and the heavy music community. I'm honored on this episode to be joined by A.L.N, the artist behind the project Mizmor. Being a Portland-based project, it was such a treat to get to chat about some of the local coffee and some of that culture from the Portland area. So grab a fresh cup of coffee and wake the fuck up! What's going on, Caffeinated Crew? I'm here with A.L.N, the artist behind the Black and Sludge project Mizmor. We're going to have some coffee and talk about metal and all kinds of great stuff today. How are you doing, A.L.N?
Oh, I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm awesome. It's great to be sharing a cup of coffee with you this evening.
You as well.
Let's start with the coffee. What are you drinking on your side?
Well, I have to be completely honest here, and I am drinking a tea right now because as I've gotten older, I've noticed the effects of caffeine and coffee more and more, and I have anxiety, and I can't drink coffee this late anymore. It's not even that late. It's 4 p.m. in Portland as we're talking, but I would be drinking probably a cup of Guava coffee, which is my favorite roaster locally, but admittedly, I'm sipping on tea right now, so be nice to me, all y'all.
What's your blend of choice this evening?
I'm drinking a rooibos tea right now.
Oh man, see, people, I try to tell my tea drinkers that they don't know about the rooibos. I'm like, get the rooibos.
Oh, dude, it's the best herbal. I love black tea. I love Earl Grey. But when it's time to drink herbal tea, definitely go for rooibos.
I equate rooibos almost to like a nice fruity Ethiopian coffee.
Sure, yeah, I can get that.
That's how I feel about it, like a nice single origin Ethiopian.
What are you drinking?
Unfortunately, I'm drinking coffee at the 7 p.m. time that I'm in right now because
decaf
Oh no, it's full-fledged.
Of course.
I would love to have decaf, but I wanted to taste this coffee. I'm drinking, it's Sweet Bloom. It's a roaster from Denver, Colorado, and somebody has imported it into Montreal, which is really awesome. It is a honeyed Nicaraguan single origin called Don Teo. And it's got some amazing fruity notes because of the honey process. So they wash it and then sun dry it. So it gets a really sticky texture and ferments on the outside. And it's got guava notes in it. A lot of like fruity guava and white grape. So
that sounds lovely.
I'll pay the price later when I can't go to sleep. But right now I'm having a great time.
What's your brew method of choice?
I do a V60 for everything at home, and at work, my portable rig is just an AeroPress.
Great. Love it.
How do you brew at home when you drink coffee?
My favorite way to brew would probably be the Chemex and also the AeroPress. Sometimes I do a French press, but I usually Chemex or AeroPress.
Do you have I know there's like a ton of AeroPress recipes, and I'm still kind of finding my favorite one. What recipe have you been using?
Oh man, there's so many. The one that I use is, they have a whole AeroPress competition. It's insane. The one I use is the inverted method, and I can't remember the specifics of the recipe off the top of my head, but it's pretty fast and easy,
Yeah.
Halfway through, you flip it upside down and you just kind of pour it out. And it just, I'm glossing over the details, but it's a pretty consistent and easy way to like get great full notes out of your coffee.
Definitely. So do you do a full brew, basically like a full cup in the AeroPress?
Yeah, like as a small cup of coffee.
Okay.
Like I know some people will do like more of like an espresso or concentrate that they dilute, but I go for the full. It's not I think it comes out to be like 6-8 ounces. I'm in
milliliters, but
gotcha.
It should be about 8, like a cup. I think is like 200 So yeah, basically about that. I was flip-flopping between that process, like where you do a small cup, but I've recently been doing an AeroPress Champion brew where it's like 30 grams in with 100 water, and then at 45 seconds you press it, and then you add like 100 to 120 grams of water after it to make like an Americano.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say 30 grams. Jesus.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's basically like making really concentrated, like almost like a mocha pot style coffee, but in 45 seconds.
Yeah.
And I've found that extracts a lot better, almost like a V60. I've been getting a lot more of the notes than by doing, like a 15 or a 20 grams of coffee to like the full. So I go back and forth, however lazy I'm feeling that day, and if I have a scale, plays a lot into it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But definitely,
that's interesting. Yeah, I think I'm usually around like 19 grams for a cup of coffee.
Do you use your scoop, the Scoopy guy?
I have a scale.
Okay, yeah,
Always got to do the scale. Bird grinder.
Yep. What are you hand grinder or do you have an electric?
I did the hand grind thing for a long time, but I have a little small electric burr grinder now.
Awesome. Yeah, my Baratza Encore was definitely one of the best, sub $200 purchases I've ever made.
Yeah, sure.
Well, that's awesome. And you mentioned Kova is your favorite roaster in Portland.
That's right. Have you had that before?
Oh man, I probably have, and just didn't remember when I was on one of my mini trips to the States for work. I've never actually been to Portland, which I know is like a gasp moment for any coffee lover. But I know that you can find Kova on the West Coast, which I've been to, LA and San Fran a few times.
Right.
So I'm pretty sure I've at least been to a shop that's serving it, and maybe just didn't know. I know they're a bigger roaster in the Portland area.
They are now, yeah. They've always been my favorite since I moved here like 10 years ago, and they were not a big name. I think their quality is just top notch, and I find it impressive and I guess encouraging that I feel like it still tastes just as good now that they're a big company. Because, like another company like Stumptown, who has good coffee, and especially back in the day had really good coffee, but the quality has changed.
Yeah.
And Kova is just still fucking amazing. So yeah, it's tried and true for me. Like there's plenty of other good roasters, but they'll always hold the most special place in my heart, I think.
You've had a coffee collab with Dogma.
Yes.
Did you get to work a lot hands-on with them and picking the beans in the process, or was it kind of like a back and forth kind of thing? How did that work out?
It was definitely a back and forth kind of thing. They sent me initially just some samples of their current offerings, just for me to kind of try their line. And I told them what my favorite one was from that batch, and then kind of told them other types of coffee that are my favorite. For me, I mean, I love lots of different kinds of coffee, but I think my favorite would have to be Ethiopian. And I really love natural processed coffees. Like the fruitier, the better for me. So that's kind of what I was pushing for. And we ended up doing an Ethiopian. It was not natural processed. It's kind of just like what they were able to get their hands on from their supplier. But it was still nice and fruity. And yeah, it would have been awesome to be more hands-on, but I mean, we're across the country from each other, so there's only so much you can do there. Right.
And did you reach out to them for that collaboration, or was it more of a mutual?
I did. I reached out to them because we have a mutual friend that kind of wanted to put us in contact with each other, because this person knows that I'm super into coffee and, metal and whatnot. And so is Mike from Dogma. So he kind of did a little intro for us, and we talked for a bit and finally drummed up the collab idea.
It's awesome. And I love the name Holy Doomed Black Coffee.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
It only seemed too natural since that's kind of, Holy Doomed Black Metal is my little like homemade genre tag.
Yes. So. Stick out from the crowd. And I believe that the origin was Guji, wasn't it? It was like a Guji.
I think
coffee.
That's right. Yeah.
So that's definitely a super fruity bean. I would like to move on to some of the more musical stuff. What drew you towards that blackened metal sludge style of music?
Well, I've loved doom metal for a really long time. Since some point in high school, started getting into it like through stoner metal until it just got heavier and heavier and more evil. So that was always a love of mine and a genre that I find natural for me to write in because I've written sad music my whole life, non-metal sad music. So I just kind of have I feel a kinship with that sort of spirit there. And the black metal stuff kind of came later for me through my love of doom metal. I think the first black metal band that I got super into was Wolves in the Throne Room, which I found through devouring all the Southern Lord releases because they had a lot of the doom bands that I liked there. So I had heard some of the Norwegian stuff in the past, and it was like, wow, this is really intense, but none of it that I had heard when I was younger. I wasn't shown any of the more melodic side of it. So since I'm into very like melancholic music, nothing about black metal had really grabbed me until I heard Wolves in the Throne Room. And now I like a lot more diverse kinds of black metal. But yeah, that was all, high school, late high school, and just out of high school that those genres were kind of, percolating under the surface for me. And I had already been in a stoner metal band, stoner doom kind of thing, still kind of like very rock and roll, but more of like a Black Sabbath style doom metal. So then I think it just kind of took life experience to bring me to the point where I actually wanted to write something really dark and extreme with the doom and black metal influence that I had picked up over the years.
Mizmor is definitely on the more black metal with sludge elements. But what is it about writing for the personal journey, kind of bringing the story of where you've been through and working through emotions and things like that? How did that kind of fit into writing in that genre? I know it's not a super common subject in, black metal or sludge even.
Yeah. Well, one thing about both of those genres, and I guess just metal in general, that really resonates with me is like the long form compositions. And I feel that is conducive to a narrative and to a journey, as you said. Because I also feel that like most of the pieces that I write, they kind of take you on this journey of like, here's this doom part of the song, and then maybe there's a droney atmospheric part, and then a black metal part, and like before you know it, the song's 20 minutes long, but it's had all these different movements in it, and it's told this story.
Right.
I feel that is very effective for storytelling, and that metal offers you that pace, and the fan base offers you that patience, that like we're already all here to listen to really long, sad songs. So that's an aspect that attracts me. And there's just so much of it that is kind of hard to explain, but just feels natural to me. Especially for expressing the content that I was wrestling with. It was very, very sad, depressing, feelings of yearning and longing, heartbreak and bitterness. And though I feel a lot of the sad, lamentful elements satisfied by kind of the funeral doom sound, the black metal sound has this sort of epic, grandiose quality to it, especially some of this more like Cascadian stuff, to where I felt like it was satisfying this emotion of yearning and longing for me that I didn't quite get from doom metal. So between the two favorite subgenres of mine, it just seemed natural for this emotional turmoil to come out that way.
I know that you speak about the emotions and things like that. Would you mind speaking about, kind of the story behind what led you to start the project in the beginning?
Yeah, for sure. For anyone that doesn't know, I started the project while I was grappling with losing my faith in Christianity, which is the religion that I was indoctrinated into as a baby, as a little kid, and brought up, raised in my whole life. I turned my back on it when I was a teenager, and then I found it very seriously for myself as an adult, and practiced wholeheartedly, completely devoted, like did a 180 in my life for like a solid 2 years, left my whole life behind pretty much to just single-mindedly focus on the faith. And after about a year and a half, I started to have really serious doubts about it and fell into a deep depression. And after about 2 years, I started to very, very, very slowly change my mind and walk away from it. And the first Mizmor album I wrote out of necessity for dealing with that grief, because when you are, first of all, it's just kind of world shattering. If it's something you've been indoctrinated into, it's like your whole understanding of everything in the world is ripped out from under you. It's really, you feel lost and confused. And the other aspect that was really potent for me was, especially in Western evangelical Christianity, you're taught that you have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ through the indwelling Holy Spirit. And that was, I felt like I really loved Jesus. And God becomes so many roles to you, your father, your friend, your brother, your intercessor, et cetera, et cetera. And so when I have this realization that I don't think these things are true anymore, it's really an incredible loss. It's really like the worst breakup you've ever been through times a million. Like, you've had your heart ripped out. So I don't know if everyone can relate to that, but if you have been through that, you know what I'm talking about. For some people it's different, and it's just like, yeah, I didn't really believe in it anymore and whatever. But like, for me, it was like a really, really big deal. Mm-hmm. And it totally shattered my world. And the first Mizmor album came out of that, and was actually written from the perspective, I was still a struggling Christian when I wrote that album. So it's actually like an album of really dark, embittered, sad psalms. They're prayers. They're written in the second person, like you. They're addressed to God.
Right.
So that was the idea for the project. And slowly over the course of the last 10 years, it has evolved and progressed, but it's always been exploring my thoughts and feelings about God and spirituality and whatnot. And so it went from a struggling Christian to an agnostic to an atheist, essentially, over the course of 10 years.
Talking about the, emotional and you do address mental health a lot of the times, working through depression and talking about like emotional struggles and things like that. What is the importance that you see in heavy music in general being more open to talking about it and transparent about these issues?
Well, I think for a lot of people, myself included, heavy music is extremely cathartic.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it can be very therapeutic. I guess to answer your question, I feel like it would be valuable to be more open about the mental health aspect of it, so that it's less likely for it to just be possibly destructive in people's lives,
Mm-hmm.
Something negative or something that, this isn't just heavy music. This is kind of the music in general, but, so much of it is centered around drinking and drugs and other things that over time end up making a person's mental health suffer.
Right.
And if we're more, clearly intentional about what we're actually all doing here and getting out of heavy music, I do think that it can be a really effective tool for people. And I'm not knocking drinking and doing drugs. Also, I for me with the heavy music thing, I want people to, and this is for the artists, not the audience, but I want people to have a good reason why they're making such a nasty sound. Like, I don't want it to just be like, because it sounds cool. And like, sometimes it does. And like, I love a good, like, just cool riff that like doesn't mean anything else. But like, the music, I mean, it's screaming and it's so extreme and full of pain. Mm-hmm. And I just hope that people are making that music because they feel they need to, because it is therapeutic and healing to them, and that's what they want for other people. I think that there are some people in the community that like are more into disgusting people. Mm-hmm. And kind of spreading their hate and negativity, and I'm super not into that.
Yeah.
So I want people to have a good reason for making an ugly sound, because like you shouldn't just fucking scream because it sounds cool. I don't know.
No, I mean, I agree. I think there's a fine line between artistry and just doing something because, somebody else thinks it's cool or you think it's cool or it's trendy. And that can get into a conversation about elitism, but
yeah, I just think that it can become, because of the purely sonic nature of the extreme sound, it can be negative. It can be negative, Right. So I just hope that for the artists and the people and the fans, that it's ultimately positive. That's what I'm trying to do with my music anyway.
Right. It's like a cathartic release and there's an intentionality behind it.
Exactly.
Mizmor is a solo project, but live, you have a band and everything like that. Why do you think it's significant to produce this project in a solo form?
That's a good question. The first part of that of my answer, I would say, would be that it's just how I do things. Like, I've been making solo records since I was in 6th grade.
Okay.
Not metal, but just like, I know how to play these instruments. I'm by myself in my house with a computer. I make the songs. I make an album, mm-hmm. I've been doing that as a process and a release for me, like practically my whole life that I can remember. I think it's just an essential part of how I process thoughts and feelings. And over the years, the genre has changed many times, but the process of me making music by myself has just always been a part of my life. So kind of how I was explaining before about the story behind Mizmor, when I started going through this emotional time with my faith, this was like my journal. The music was like my journal. It was just between me and, I guess at that point, air quotes, God. But yeah, it was personal. It was a prayer. It was my thoughts and feelings and whatnot. And it just didn't even cross my mind to try to start a band to do this, because I needed to work this out now. Like, there was urgency behind it, and I didn't know how to record and mix music back then. And it was just like, I'm throwing up my computer and I'm making these songs because I feel terrible.
Right.
And so, yeah, that's just progressed through the years to hopefully sound better and better. But then it's become a live thing. But Mizmor wouldn't be Mizmor if it wasn't just me doing it. Right. I've had positive experiences being in bands where there's more than one songwriter and performer on the records and whatnot, and like, that's cool too. But for Mizmor, it just has to be me. It is my exploration of my feelings and thoughts about the world and myself. And it wouldn't be the same if I had to share creative control and have someone else's ideas that we need to present and another identity there. That'd be cool, but it would just be a different thing, Right.
So you're performing all of the instruments, like drums, bass, everything?
Everything.
Okay. And so you kind of just learned how to produce and record through the kind of 10-year experience of doing it as a solo project?
Yeah, and through counsel of other people that I admire that are much better at it than I am.
That's awesome. I would like to shift gears again into less of a serious note. But I definitely really appreciate you sharing some of those, transparent details and your story about what inspired the project to where it is today, and your personal kind of walk and journey.
That's what I'm here for.
So what are you currently listening to?
What am I currently listening to? Let's see. I've been listening to a lot of Shape of Despair.
Okay.
They're a funeral doom band from Finland. I've been listening to... I always blank when I'm trying to... I've been listening to a lot of Brian Eno.
Okay.
I love ambient music. Stars of the Lid. I've been listening to Ulver, Jamie Sieber. She's a cellist. Been listening to Walt McClements, who's a ambient accordion player.
Ambient accordion player.
Yeah, it's an ambient album, but it's all done on accordion, and you wouldn't know it. There's a couple parts where it pokes through, and you can tell, but it's so modulated and effective that it's affected that it sounds like synths.
That's crazy.
I've been listening to Hovercraft.
Okay.
Yautja.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Krungbin and Wardruna.
That is such an eclectic, all over the place. I mean, a lot of ambience,
lots of different stuff.
Yeah,
yeah.
Is it the new? Because Yautja just released a new.
Yeah, I've been listening to the Lurch, the new album, a lot.
Mm-hmm.
It's just so impressive. I don't listen to a lot of music like that that has so many notes. But but man, I'm blown away by the musicianship, and I love when they settle into a groove and give you a nice head bobbing nasty riff every once in a while. It's a great album.
Yeah, that's a cool playlist though. Half of those people, I have no idea who they are. So that'll definitely open up the door for even some of the listeners. They'll hopefully look up that ambient accordion album.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I'm going to have to hear it. Like, I need to know what this is about.
It's pretty cool.
Well, this has been a great chat. I really appreciate you joining me on a Monday afternoon.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Of course. I just have one last question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite city for beans and breakdowns?
I mean, dude, I hate to be this guy, but like probably Portland, honestly. It has so much good metal and so much good coffee. I've had great coffee and great metal shows and experiences in Seattle as well. Yeah. I mean, I feel like that's very close-minded of me, but like this in the Northwest, we have a thriving underground metal and third wave coffee community, and I've been very pleased with Washington and Oregon in general, Portland and Seattle. So I'm sorry I haven't expanded too far outside of that for this answer, but that's just what comes to mind right now.
There's no judgment here. I've had one of my friends also, I believe he gave Portland as well, because he's really into that underground metal that's coming out of the kind of the Northwestern area. Mm-hmm. And he was like, and they got great coffee. I'm like, yeah, it's like the birthplace of third wave coffee in America. Like, we get it.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, for better or for worse, Starbucks kind of launched the second wave and then gave us all of the third wave baristas that got fed up, serving upside down iced macchiatos.
I mean, that's my story right there. I started at Starbucks and then worked at a couple third wave shops. I was a barista for like 10 years. Mm-hmm. I did the barista competition.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Did you place?
No, no, I didn't. I actually did it like for my boss because he like wanted representation. I'm not into that. The competitive barista world. It's very elitist and douchey, honestly. But yeah, I did do that. I've worked at some nice little craft coffee shops over the years, but I did start at Starbucks. So we do owe them a lot, for better or for worse, like you said.
Yeah, no, I'm fully in agreement. Like, thank you, Starbucks, for training so many baristas. Well, I hope you have a great rest of your week. I've really enjoyed speaking with you, and I wish you all the best for Mizmor in the upcoming year. I know that you just recently released that new album, so everybody should go and check that out for sure.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Beans and Breakdowns. I want to say thanks to A.L.N. for coming on the podcast and being super transparent with me about his story and the project that is Mizmor and all of the themes and elements that have contributed to those albums over the past 10 years. Thank you so much for coming on and just being an awesome guest. If you would like to know more about Mizmor and A.L.N's other projects, you can find them on Instagram at Holy Doomed Black Metal. Mizmor's albums can also be found on pretty much all listening platforms, so make sure to go and check them out. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. You can also find us online at beansandbreakdowns.com and on Instagram at beansandbreakdowns. Until next week, stay caffeinated and wake the fuck up.